And we are okay.
Excellent. Welcome to New Tools, How to Decide What You Really Need. I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited too. Before we get started with the content of the webinar, I want to go ahead and get through some mechanics so that we all kind of understand what's going on, how this is all working, that kind of thing. As you may have figured out, I'm Sharon Burton. That's a picture of me. My son took that picture, so I'm particularly pleased with that picture. I've been in the TechCom industry for nearly 20 years. Glancing at some of the names of people who are attending, I recognize some of these names, so you've been around for a bit too. I am a content consultant. I am the person that you call when you are pretty sure that things could be working better, but you either don't have the time or the resources or whatever to look into it and figure it out. Then in that case, you call me, and I help you put it all together. So that's all good. I'm an STC Associate Fellow, which I am incredibly proud of. I spend a lot of time working very hard in our field, trying to make sure that everybody is excellent. And that's how I got, that's what they gave me my Associate Fellow for, so that's really cool. I teach really at this point groups of people in parking lots at this point. I'm teaching anybody who will hold still long enough to let me teach them something. So I teach technical communication to engineering students at the University of California, Riverside. The university realized they were graduating engineers who couldn't communicate. I realized that's a shock to you, but they were surprised to discover that. So if you are working with an engineer who can, in fact, communicate, feel free to send me a thank you note. I've been doing that for some time, and they're out there now in the wild. I teach for UCR Extension. I teach for the STC Communication, or STC Certificate courses, a bunch of stuff. So I also knit, design patterns, work out, write, garden. I have an Australian Shepherd who's on the floor right here. Generally stuff like that. Gives you a sense of who I am. Hopefully makes me a little more rounded person, to do all of that. Before we do anything else, I just want to say, by the way, thank you to DCL for sponsoring these webinars. They've just been doing a fabulous job of getting industry leaders to do all kinds of wonderful webinars, and I'm not putting myself in the industry leader box. I'm delighted they let me play in Bear's Handbox because they've got some really amazing speakers. So if you are looking at buckets of legacy content and you know that you need to translate. My brain just shut up. Hold on, guys. It'll come back. It always does. You need to convert this legacy content so you can start reusing it and get the benefits of whatever it is you're going to be doing. Contact DCL. They know what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long time. And they're the bomb. They're just fantastic. So they can help you with everything, including ebooks, which are coming up. Everybody is looking for ebook stuff, or at least is looking at ebooks coming in their future. So that kind of thing, they're the best, obviously from any format to any format. And they've got lots of clients who do things, and I'm sure that they have even more clients who do things because that's, the short list. So they're fantastic. They know what they're doing. And so let's all give a virtual round of applause, thanking DCL for hosting both my webinar and the webinar series they're doing, because they're just being really cool about that. So yay. Okay. So how this webinar works, you are muted. If you've been talking, hoping that I would notice you, I can't hear you. And that's deliberate. So there it is. If you want to communicate, please go into the questions area on your GoToWebinar panel. Type any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns that you may have. I have it open up on my second screen, and I am glancing at it. I may address things as we go, but it depends on how I'm doing with time. I may not until the end. None of your information is going to appear in the recorded webinar, and we are recording this. You'll be getting a link to the recording tomorrow or the day after, sometime in the next day or two. So that's fabulous. If there's something that I say that is of value to you, or if you wish to just refresh your memory, or you want to share this with somebody, it's absolutely being recorded. There should be a short survey included in the link to the recording. So if you could do that, take that little survey, that helps DCL make sure that they're doing a quality product, because if these webinars don't, help people, there's not that much point to them. So that helps everybody. And I should be done at the top of the hour. However, that said, I'm also able to stay a few minutes after if we get a lot of questions. And if you can't stay and want to have a question answered or etc., my contact info will be shown on the last slide. So if you didn't get it on the first slide, it's still coming. So don't panic. Okay, so that takes care of all of our housekeeping. Everything's all clean and shiny. So let's start with the content. Step one is defining the problem. My absolute favorite post ever to any list, whether it's TechWhirler or a LinkedIn list or a programmer's list or any list, is, dear, insert name of group here, what is the best product for creating my content? Love, writer. That's my very favorite, because the answer is there is no best tool. And there isn't. There is no best tool. I know that there are people out there who think that their tool is in fact a religion, and they worship at the altar of their tool, and that's good and fabulous, I suppose. Personally, I prefer to knit or go for a walk or play with my dog, but, you know, we all have things that we do that make the day worth, you know, getting through. But there is no best tool. So even if you love the tool that you're currently working with, there is no best tool. So if you think that you need a new tool, you have to figure out what your problem is that your tool needs, the new tool needs to solve. And your boss, the business, the problem isn't, we're using old tools. We're using old tools, therefore we need new tools. That is not the problem that you're trying to solve. I know it sounds like it's a problem that you should be able to solve, but it's not. I don't get to solve the problem that way, and I own my own business. I have to laugh because I decided I wanted an iPad. Why? Because it was shiny. And it took me a year to make the business case for an iPad to myself. That should amuse you. It certainly does me. Businesses don't care. Your boss does not care if you're using an old tool, but they don't care if there's a new tool that is shiny. They don't care at all about that. So if you are thinking that you need new tools, going to your boss and saying, I need a new tool because I'm using an old tool, is not going to get you anywhere. It's not, because it's not going to get you anywhere. The only thing that's going to get you somewhere, if you decide that you need something in a business, is the business reasons for new tools. And when you go to your boss or your management and want something, you've got to put it in the terms that your boss or the company is going to understand. And there are really only a few things that companies care about. The first one is cost reduction. So you can say it costs us X to do Y thing. It costs us X to do Y thing. If we change the way we're doing Y thing, we can save this amount of dollars every time. So for example, we need to publish out to ebooks. Currently, it is a long and painful process. We spend 3 days doing it every time we need to take our content and turn it into an ebook. If we got a new tool, or maybe we don't do it often enough to make buying a new tool worthwhile, but if we use DCL, or if we do something different to get that ebook, we can save X amount of time, which costs Y amount of money. So that cost reduction, that's one thing that businesses care about. Cost avoidance. If we spend X number of dollars now, we don't have to do this other thing that costs money, like hire more writers or hire a contractor to meet these deadlines, or get more computers, or whatever it is that we need that would need to happen if we don't do this. So if we spend X dollars now, then we don't have to hire 3 more writers. So there's cost avoidance. Then there is increased revenue. If we spend X number of dollars now, we can penetrate new markets, deliver more products, provide better information products, whatever it is we need to do. It's still costing us money. It is still absolutely a cost issue, but it's tied to the business's other objectives. So for example, last time I was documentation manager, which was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, we localized into 4 other languages, English and then 4 other languages. And the decision was being made above my head that perhaps we should look seriously into breaking into the Latin American market. And my attitude was, that's fine, but to do that, we need to localize into Spanish. We're going to have to spend X number of dollars, but that will open up the Latin American market, which is how much? So it was obviously the translating the documentation into Spanish was not the only way we could break into the Latin American market, but it was certainly part of that movement. So I could tie that to the overall big picture that the company wanted, thus helping to increase revenue, tying my pony to the increased revenue thing. Always a good thing to do. Whatever the reason is that you think that you need new tools, you need to tie the reasons to your boss's concerns or the things that he or she is measured by. We all of us have things that we are measured by, and we notice because these are the things that show up in our performance evaluation. So figure out, perhaps ask your boss, that's one way to figure it out, what it is that he or she is measured by, and then tie the reasons that you need to spend this money on a new tool to the things that he or she is being measured by. That's a really good way to go about it. Okay, these are the only reasons, by the way, that a business wants to spend money. That's it. So any discussion that you have with your boss or with management or whoever it is you would take this discussion to, these are the only things they care about. So because I want a new tool, doesn't cut it. Because I think we should do video, doesn't cut it. Now, because I think we should do video, and video will help us reduce costs, increase revenue, et cetera, absolutely. So, okay, I've got a thing up saying, can I get closer to my microphone? I've got the microphone less than an inch from my mouth. Are you guys all having a problem hearing me? Am I too quiet? Let's find out. It's possible that I'm speaking quietly. All right. So some people say yes, some people say no. So I'm going to assume generally I'm doing fine. But I will try and project a little more. I will try. So if you go into your boss's office and say, I want a new tool because it's new and it's shiny and I want a new tool, you sound like you're 14. And if you've ever had a 14-year-old, you know that that's exactly how 14-year-olds approach anything. So you don't want to sound like you're 14, and even if you do want to sound like you're 14, you're not going to get what you want out of your boss simply because you went into their office and whined that you want a new tool. It's not going to happen. So any reasons that you come up with to why you need new tools, you have to present it to your management as we're going to reduce costs, we're going to avoid costs, or we're going to increase revenue. And it may be all 3 of those things. You may be able to make the case that we can do it with all 3 of those things. This is called building a business case. And understanding that you work in a business and that everything that you do, I should, in some way, reduce costs, etc. In some way you contribute to the bottom line. You improve sales or something. Understanding that is real important. And once you understand that, you can start to understand how or why you can get what it is you want from your boss. And you'll stop showing up in your boss's office going, it's shiny, I want, because you will. So you can say, well, if we spend X number of dollars now, we can avoid the cost of Y, cost avoidance, reduce the cost of Y, cost reduction, or increase some revenue in some way. And by the way, customer satisfaction, increasing customer satisfaction is in fact increasing revenue. It's not immediate, and it's not a dollar-to-dollar thing, but increasing customer satisfaction absolutely ties to increasing revenue. And a lot of what we do in TechCom is in fact increasing customer satisfaction because it's generally making the product more usable. So define the cost of Y. If we spend $20,000 on new tools and training, it reduces the cost of content development by one by one new writer. We don't need to hire one new writer, which would cost us $75,000 a year. So we can either hire a new writer at $75,000, or we can spend $20,000 on a new tool. What is the return on investment if we buy the new product, et cetera? Now, this talk is not every little thing you've ever wanted to know about building a business case. If this is something you're interested in, please let me and DCL know. And I have a friend who does a fantastic hour-long talk on all the things that you need to know to build a business case from every possible angle there ever was, plus she has worksheets and all kinds of stuff. So it's amazing. So if that's something you're interested in, let us know. I can probably get her to do a talk for us. And every time she does the talk, I learn something, and I built a business case for everything. I built a business case for marrying my current husband. So really, I'm a little crazy on that. So there we are. All right, so now that we've understand how we talk to our managers about whether or not we, how we want to get a new tool, which is important, how do we figure out what kind of tool we need? How do we figure it all out? And by the way, I love the picture of that car. I think that picture of that car is so pretty and so lovely. I love that picture. I want to use that picture for everything. All right, so how do we decide what we need? Well, we need to figure out what our problems are, because we don't get a new tool because it's shiny. Again, even I, who own my own business, could not get an iPad because it was shiny, because I couldn't come up with a business case. So here are some common problems that I see from clients. We could reuse content, but our current tools don't allow it. If you're using Word or InDesign, this is especially an issue. You technically can reuse content in Word and InDesign, but realistically you can't. It's too difficult. It's just, the overhead is just gigantic. Maybe you're manually post-processing to get your outputs. So this, as a matter of fact, I see this one fairly often, that we can, out of our tool, we can get the basic output, and then we have to spend several hours manually post-processing to get everything branded properly, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's silly. That's just silly. And that costs, you've got to pay somebody money to do that post-processing. So that costs something. That's silly. Maybe you're using Word and you are wasting a lot of time reformatting the same document. This one really comes up in Word. And by the way, if you're creating your content in Word, I am so sorry. I really am sorry. Word is a fine tool. My husband is a freelance writer. He's writing his first science fiction novel right now. He's nearly done with it. Perfectly fine product for that. Perfectly fine. But for TechCom, for Marcom, for anything that requires like really complex documents, Word is the wrong product. And one of the things that you know if you're working in Word is you spend a lot of time reformatting the same document again and again and again. If you are localizing, your localization costs are going to skyrocket as you add languages, and you probably know that. You may be looking at delivering new formats. And ebooks are serious formats for most of us. Every survey I'm seeing now, most of us are not doing ebooks right now, but most of us see it coming. We see it coming in that 6 to 18 month window. We absolutely see it coming. Deadlines are getting more aggressive, but you can't get headcount. Or you can get headcount, but nothing like you need to be getting. Out of the Great Depression that we just came out of, the Great Recession, we are now starting to get the headcount. But it's very often, I'm hearing from friends of mine who are documentation managers, they need 3 writers, they're getting approval for 1. So it's not what they need. It could be that your content development process is slow and hard, in part because of the tools that you're using. If you're strictly in a frame maker house and you are locked down in that you're not allowed to use websites, you're not allowed to put your content on a website, like on Adobe's PDF website, your review process could be very difficult. There are better ways to do a review process. It could be that you're adding a team in India or China or other offshore location, and they need access to your content. and the way that you're doing that right now is not going to work well for that. It could be that you have in fact gotten the headcount approval, and getting people up to speed on how you do things is it just takes forever. And I've seen this with a couple of clients that, it is what is the phrase, the shoemaker's children go barefoot. We may have all the documentation covered for the entire company, and we've never ever had time to document our own processes. So our own processes are tribal knowledge, and they're just hard. It's just hard, and it's hard because it's hard, and we've never had a chance to write it down. This is the last bullet here is one I see a lot. The way we do things is working perfectly well right now. And if we add one more writer, it doesn't matter if that writer is here or offshore or wherever, one more writer, the whole thing's tipping over. Or one more language, and the whole thing's tipping over. Or one more product, or one more anything. It's all working right now. And all of you in the team lay awake at night, scared to death somebody's going to walk in your office and go, fantastic, we'd like to add Latin American Spanish. And at that point, the whole thing falls over. So, entirely possible. We have a survey. Jennifer, I'd love it if we could throw that poll up right now. Is that something you can do, or is that something I have to do?
Here we go.
Here we go. Okay. So you guys all get to the poll. I'm just curious. I just got a couple of issues. I'm curious to see what you guys have as some of your issues. So if you could, go ahead and click on some of these. And I believe we set it up so you can choose more than one. So if more than one of these is appropriate for you, please feel free to choose them. I'm just curious. These are the ones I put on the list are the ones I see most often. So don't panic if your problems aren't on that list. That doesn't mean that, your problems don't exist. It just means that they're not the ones that I get the calls for all the time. I'm just curious. This is shaping out to be about what I expected. That's interesting. That's good. I like it when it's about what I expected. I'm liking that. Although I'm seeing a little. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close the poll. I'm going to count backwards to 5. So if you have not answered the poll yet, but you wanted to, quickly, run. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, Jennifer, if you could close the poll and show it, please, that would be cool. Okay, so about a third of you you need help figuring out what your issues are. But the good news there is 2/3 of you are pretty sure you've got your issues nailed down, or at least identified, which is bomb. 74% of you are not sure what the right tools are. Excellent and interesting. Hopefully you'll get something important out of it, something helpful out of this webinar. 40% of you think that training new people in new tools and processes, that's a big concern. That's good. Converting legacy content, that's a big deal. Getting management buy-in. Now, remember, these numbers aren't going to add up to 100% because you guys could all choose more than one answer. So clearly, they don't add up to 100%. They add up to more than that. And that's because you could choose more than one. So no surprise there. So interesting, and I am surprised at the getting management buy-in and training the new people. Those numbers are higher than I expected. And the identifying our issues is lower than I expected. So that's interesting. So cool. Okay, Jennifer, if you can go ahead and hide the poll results, and I can go on with my slides. Okay, so you may have many of these problems. You may have had different problems. I mean, if I didn't cover the problem that you have the sneaking suspicion you've got, don't panic. It just means that I didn't cover it. That's all it means. It doesn't mean that you have the wrong problem. I strongly suggest to every client, and I do it when I come in and help, make a list. Just go through and make the list. And when I say make the list, I don't even mean make a list of the right problems. I mean just start making the list. What's fun to do is to have people make a list in a kind of back of the envelope kind of way. You know, just think of all the things that you think are a problem for you, all of them. Don't worry about whether they're really like a big problem or a little problem. Just think of all the things that are a problem for you guys, all of them. Write them all down, all of them. Just make a list. And if your list starts being like several pages, don't flip out. It's perfectly fine that your initial list is several pages. Nothing is bad. Nothing is bad if it's several pages, because it's just several pages. So once your list is several pages, now you can start rearranging those things on your list into the priority. So the things that are urgent, that's the major impact if it's not fixed. Major dollar impact, that it has all dollars. So if you don't fix this, there's a major dollar problem. For example, last time I was documentation manager, our build the deliverables process took a week. For the major mothership product, which they release twice a year, it took a week to build the deliverables. And to build the deliverables took senior level knowledge. So I had to have my most senior, most experienced writer completely offline for a week while she built the deliverables, which meant that the other 8 writers who were working on that project needed her and couldn't get her. So they were, you know, doing this and that, and then they'd hand the files to her, and she would build deliverables. And then, so that needed to be fixed. That needed to be fixed. And there was a major dollar impact that happened by pulling her completely offline during the time that we needed her the most. The good fix, serious but workable. Maybe you have to do a whole bunch of post-processing right now, and if you could get it down to where you didn't need to do a whole bunch of post-processing, but maybe you had to do a little bit. Maybe there was a little bit of post-processing you had to do, that would be workable. The bonus to fix would be something that, you know, yeah, we could keep doing it that way if we had to, but man, it would be nice to not have to do that. Man, oh man, that would be nice to not have to do that. And then also think about, are there any other groups that we need to fit in with? For example, your build master. It could be that your build master has as a priority that you will stop manually checking in the files to the build. Build masters typically hate it when people are manually checking in files, because if there's something that's going to go wrong, that's what it is. You're going to fall asleep, you're going to miss types, whatever it is, you're going to do something wrong, and you're going to check in files in the wrong place in the build, and you're going to break his or her build. And build masters don't like it when that happens. So it could be when you talk to your build master has as a highest urgent priority, thou shalt stop manually checking in files to the build. So all of a sudden, you now have an urgent thing. We've got to be able to automate the build, check in files into the build. We've got to be able to automate that. Whatever the tool is that we choose, that is a high priority thing. There may be other processes that you need to integrate with. So think about those. Think about, where do you need to grow in the next 1, 3, and 5 years? Again, as I said before about ebooks, most people are not delivering ebooks right now. But most people are seeing it coming, certainly in the 3-year window. Maybe not so much in the 1-year window, but most people are looking at that 3-year window and going, yeah, we're going to be delivering everything also in ebooks within 3 years. It's just going to happen. And if you think it's not, I know a company who makes great big tractor construction equipment, the big digger trucks and all of those. And I just had one of their writers in one of my classes, and they're absolutely looking at delivering in ebooks, because it turns out the guys who are driving the big digger trucks, they want to be able to open the manuals for the big trucks on tablets. They've got tablets in the trucks. Who knew? I would never have expected that. So if you're thinking, oh, that's silly, my users would never want ebooks. Well, yeah, apparently in big digger trucks they do, so very possibly in your world as well. Okay, so you've made a list of all the stuff. You've assigned priorities. Now, link your problems to costs. If for each one of these things, what is the cost that is should be avoided or reduced or revenue added when you fix it? You don't have to add a dollar amount necessarily, but you have to be able to go, okay, if we fix this, we're going to avoid a cost. Now, if you can assign a dollar amount, that's the best. But you may not, at this point, be able to assign a dollar amount. But you need to be able to figure out, this is costing the company money because we're paying the most senior, most experienced writer for a week plus all of the other writers to do stuff. That's costing me X number of dollars. The build master gets mad and yells at me. That doesn't cost the company anything, but ask the build master what it costs when he or she has to do the build again. What does a broken build cost? And I'm almost certain your build master will have a dollar figure. So yeah, a broken build costs money. What does it cost? In other words, figure out, why is your problem the business's problem? And if you can't make this link, the company's not going to get you new tools, because the company doesn't care. All of that work will be for nothing if all of it is just well, but I don't like using Word, and I think I should be able to use something else. You're not going to get new tools. You've got to make this connection so the business can see why this is a problem. Notice I haven't talked about any tools yet. We care about what our problems are. What hurts? What does hurting cost us or prevent us from making? That's what this list helps us identify, is what is this costing our company, or what is this of keeping us from making in revenue that we can't make right now. This whole process is called a needs analysis. I have a spreadsheet that I like to use that I use it to start asking questions of clients when they bring me in. It is not every question that could possibly be asked. It is a starting place. I'm looking at my time. I don't want to show it to you right now because I don't want to get bogged down in it, because I have other things I want to talk about. But it is absolutely, it's available on the website, SharonBurton.com. And Jennifer, let's make sure that we put a link in the email that we send out tomorrow to it. I'll get you the link. So you guys will have the link to that spreadsheet. Feel free to use it, reuse it, change it, adjust it, whatever it is you'd like to do with it. But it is certainly a place to start. And it's the basic questions I start asking to a client when I come in, to get a sense of what it is they're doing, how much it costs, et cetera, et cetera. So absolutely, you guys can use that, reuse it. Okay, so now what? We've identified what's broken and why it's broken. Now what do we do? I mean, really, now what do we do? Now we can start thinking about tools. Now we can. When you start thinking about tools, I urge you, please do not start thinking about feature sets. This is such a common mistake. People start thinking about feature sets. We don't care about feature sets. We care about solutions to our problems. That's why we started by identifying our problems. Okay? So we want to think about the solutions to our problems. We want to think about that 2, 3, and 5-year path. We want to think about, are there other groups in our company that have the same issues or similar issues? Is there a training group in our company? If so, are they looking at the same kinds of problems that we've got? If so, that's potentially going to change the kind of tools that we're looking at. Now, something for you guys to think about. Everybody's got features. Everybody has features. Everybody is the leading tool in their market. Everybody has the happiest customers. I mean, I've worked for 2 vendors now. I'm here to tell you, everybody has features. Everybody has the best feature set. Everybody is the leading tool. Everybody has the happiest customers. It's not just me. It's not just you. You have not been the only one who's noticed this. It's true. All the vendors say they do. So features are nice. Everybody's got them. By and large, everybody's products are doing basically the same kinds of things, by and large. Your job is to figure out what things match up to your problems. You need a solution to your problems, not features. Okay? That's why we spend so much time figuring out what the problems are for you, because you need to figure out what your solutions are. Now, I have just on my own come up with 3 levels, 3 categories of products. So I made these up. Please do not go out into the world and talk about these as though everybody knows what these are, because only people that I've talked to about this stuff knows. But they're shrink wrap. The shrink wrap products, typically, you can download a trial. So Flare, the TechCom Suite, Doc2Help, those kinds of things. You can download a trial, and you can work with your content, usually for about 30 days. You can usually get that extended if you need to, but usually for about 30 days you can work with a trial, and you can work through your list, and you can see how does this product solve our pain points, and do those solutions, are those good solutions for us? Does it solve it in a way that is good for us? So it's a shrink wrap kind of product. Then there is the products that I call a larger group product. And to a certain extent, we've got Flare, and we've got the TechCom Suite again, because if you've got the RoboHelp server or a WebDAV server, the TechCom Suite kind of fits into that. But I would also, in this larger group, I would put in Author-It, a couple of other products. I might put in some of the data-based products. I might. There may be a trial of these. You may be able to get your hands on a trial, but you're probably going to need to work with a salesperson to do that, because these are not the kind of tool, typically, that you would expect to be able to download a trial, shove your content in, and generally be able to figure it out in 30 days. These are usually bigger, and they're a little more sophisticated than I'm just going to be able to figure it out in all of its glory in 30 days. Okay? So that's probably, you might have that expectation, but I don't know that I would go into it having that expectation. And then there's the enterprise level. And the enterprise level, there should not be a trial to play with. And this is going to be al fresco stuff. This is going to be, it may be open source stuff, but open source, as we know, does not mean it's free. I mean, it's free, but it costs, right? Because even though it's free, you've got to pay somebody to configure it. You've got to pay, you've got to find somebody to train you all. You've got to customize it to meet your needs. So even though there are open source tools available at the enterprise level, free does not mean it doesn't cost, just so that you guys know. There are also tools that do cost. There's a bunch of tools that you pay money for, that kind of thing. The point here is there should not be a trial to play with. You are going to have to work with a salesperson. And there shouldn't be a trial to play with, because you're just going to hurt yourself. Or it needs so much customization. If it's an open source tool, it needs so much customization that the fact that you can use it, you can work with it, means nothing, because nothing looks like you're going to want it to look like. Okay, so you're going to have to work with a salesperson, with an expert, to figure out how this works and to figure out if this is appropriate for you. You're just going to have to. So regardless of what level of tool you choose, start working your list. You should somehow be able to get your content in. You really should. And if the vendor won't let you get your content in and work with the product, I think it's the wrong vendor. Because until you get your content in and you start working with your content in that product and start working your list of problems, you have no idea if this is actually going to work in a way that works for you. Never, ever, 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 ever accept generic demos as proof that the tool does what you need it to do. I've worked for 2 vendors. The generic demos that they show you are with content that has been carefully created, groomed, brushed, hairsprayed, all of it so that it works perfectly in the tool they're showing you. And there's nothing wrong with that because, if I'm working for a vendor and I'm doing a public demo, I want to make sure that what I want to show is going to work perfectly because nothing says fun like having the whole tool blow up while I'm doing a public demo, right? So there's nothing wrong with the fact that they're using carefully combed data, except that you can't accept that as proof that your content is going to work because your content is probably a little bit wacky. Certainly the way you need to solve some problems is kind of wacky. So don't accept these generic demos and don't watch the generic demo and go, well, all right then, it'll work perfectly for us. I saw the generic demo, so that means it's all good. Don't do that. Get your content in and start working with it. All right, some other stuff to consider as you're working with the tools. What's it going to take to get your people productive and working? I mean, think about that. How are you going to be able to do that? Maybe you train the top 2 people in your group, and then they do in-house training for everybody. Maybe everybody takes the basic training, and then your top 2 people are the resource for other people to go to for, I don't know how to do blah, help me do blah. However you're going to work that part, make sure that if you assign 2 people to be the in-house experts, make sure you assign that responsibility as part of their job description because they're going to at least initially spend probably 50% of their time supporting their fellow writers. And if that's not part of their job description, they can get whacked because their productivity has been cut in half, at least for the initial 6 months, maybe, let's say, certainly for the first 2 months. And we want to make sure that we're accounting for their time. Well, yes, their productivity got whacked, but they're supporting the other 6 people in our group. And for the first 2 months, that meant half of their time was spent doing that. And we can't whack them on the head for that. That's not fair. Plan for adding more people. If you get some esoteric tool that nobody has ever heard of, but is perfect for what you need it to do, that's a very valid decision. But what's it going to take when you need to add more people? Are you going to be able to go out into the marketplace and just simply hire somebody who already knows that? If the tool you chose is esoteric, but the right tool for you, accept that you're going to have to train people when you hire them. Because it's unreasonable to think that you're going to be able to find somebody who knows how to use that tool. It just is. It's the perfect tool for you, though. It solves every problem you've got. It solves them elegantly. But there are 4 people out there on the market who know how to use it. So, okay, we'll have to train people. And then plan on increasing all staff knowledge through in-house training. I like brown bags. I think brown bags are a great way to do that for my international crowd because it seems to be a U.S. thing. A brown bag is a lunch where everybody brings their lunch in a brown paper bag. Okay, you don't have to bring it in a brown paper bag, but that's traditionally what you brought it in. You brought your lunch in a brown paper bag. Everybody met, and then one person gives like an informal kind of presentation about maybe a feature. Or sometimes just a complaint session is good. Let your team just complain for a lunch. That, I hate this tool. It was so much easier in our previous tool. I know eventually I'm going to like this tool, but right now it's really hard and I really hate it. And let everybody kind of get that out. So that kind of in-house all-staff knowledge transfer can be a great way to make sure that you've got the training. Other stuff to think about. During the evaluation process with the vendor, was support available? Did the vendor give you support? So when you called, did they call back at a reasonable time frame? When they called back, did they seem to want to help, or did they seem irritated that you were bothering them? If you sent an email to your salesperson, did they respond to you within a reasonable time period, or was it weeks before they got back to you? When they respond to you, whether it's salesperson or support, whoever it is who's helping you during your evaluation process, when they responded to you, did you get clear and specific answers? My favorite recent story is a friend of mine, the company that she was working at, they were evaluating a content management system for their website, a great big content management system. And the sales guy actually it turned out everybody in the group from her company was female, and it just turned out that they just happened to be female. And the guy from the company, from the vendor, actually said at one point, actually asked if there was somebody in the group who was technical, maybe there was an IT man or something. He actually said that. Think about that for just a moment. And would it surprise you to also know that they did not go with that vendor? As a matter of fact, they fired that vendor within moments. So yeah, it's not good. It was just amazing. Like, is there a man who could understand this? Maybe an IT guy? He actually said that. And apparently all of the women around the conference table, because he was on the phone, on the speakerphone, all of them just open-mouthed stared at each other, and there was like dead silence for like almost 60 seconds, while all the women just stared at each other with their mouths open. Couldn't believe that came out of the phone. Amazing. So, all right. Can the vendor support you during your transition? Can they help you by providing best practices, etc.? Are there specialists in the public market? So are there people out like me who can help you through that? I mean, there are some tools that I'm expert in. There are some tools I've never done it before. So I might not be a good choice. Does the vendor have a professional services team who can help you? They may be more expensive, but they know their tool really well. They may be an excellent choice. They may be more expensive up front, but they may be cheaper if you look at what will it cost us to bring in somebody like Sharon who doesn't know this tool but can figure it out because she's gone through it before, with other tools. So it may take her 4 months to do what the professional services team can do in 2 months. So who knows? And then a couple of other things to think about. What does the market think about this tool? How often is the tool updated? If the tool is being updated every quarter, may mean that there's a lot of bug fixes going on. Now, that may mean that if they're updating it every 18 months, that may mean that they're right on top of it and they're doing a lot, I mean, they're really responsive to bug problems. But it might also mean it's a little buggy. A little buggy you might be able to cope with. Again, it may do everything that you need it to do perfectly and brilliantly. And so you might be willing to put up with a little bugginess. Might be. Could be not. Could be that the idea of a little buggy makes you just start to, like you get dizzy and you've got to put your head down on the desk, and that's perfectly valid. Perfectly valid. If you're an FDA-regulated environment, the idea that you've got software that's a little buggy is probably going to make you just fall on the floor. So, yeah. Then again, if they're only updating it every 18 to 24 months, that may not be enough. If you have not noticed, our world is changing, and it's changing very rapidly. So if your tool is only being updated every 2 years, that's like, I don't know what, that's like 7 technology years at this point right now. I mean, it's really changing fast. Are they updating it annually, but they're not making big changes? There may be something else going on. So look at how often they're updating it and see if that works for you. And don't take the vendor's word as to why they're updating it that frequently. Go out and ask. This would be the time to go to Tech Whirlers or a LinkedIn group and start having a conversation with people. Okay, that would be the time. Is there an SDK available? You may not need it, but you might. So it's good to know if there is. And then, can you talk to current users? The vendor should be able to give you people that you can talk to. They're going to obviously give you their happiest customers, obviously. But then also use lists like TechWhirler or LinkedIn or other places to find people and listen to what they have to say. And don't assume just because you have one person who says, oh my God, I would never use that product again. Oh my God, it was a nightmare. Ask them a question. Why was it a nightmare? Well, we tried to deploy that tool internationally so that everybody could get to it on a server, and it was just a nightmare. And you really, I didn't think that could be done. Well, neither did the vendor. We told them that's what we wanted to do, and they said, wow, we don't know anybody who's doing that, but we figured we could do it anyway. What a nightmare that turned out to be. I hate that tool. Well, so you use the tool in a way that the vendor said you shouldn't use it, and it turned out to be a major problem, and you're blaming the tool. So use your common sense about why that would be that way. Okay, last note. Evaluating tools is like dating. It really, really is. So don't fall in love with a tool before you understand what you need. That's why I started way back with making a business case and then identifying what you need. Because if it's not going well while you're dating, what on earth makes you think it's going to get better once you're married? And this is from a woman on her third marriage. Please understand what, if you get nothing else, hopefully you're smiling. It would be good if you were, because that was funny. But no, really, evaluating tools is like dating. Buying the tool is like being married. Now that you've invested in the tool and you've gotten the training and all of that stuff, and you maybe hired DCL to convert your legacy content for you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, now you're married. If it wasn't going well while you were dating with the vendor, what on earth makes you think it's going to get better now that you're married? They've got your money now. Why should they treat you better than when they were trying to get your money? I mean, that's a very cynical and jaded view, but it's the truth. Okay, so I've got 5 minutes till the hour. This is a great time for questions. If you guys have any, feel free. Start popping them up in the window. And I'm going to show the next slide while you guys do that, because people are probably typing right now. My website, www.sharonburton.com, pretty easy to remember. The worksheet will be available for you to download. We will make sure that you guys get that link in the email you'll get tomorrow. So don't panic about that. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, it's Sharon Burton. Always fun there. If you have questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, etc., Sharon@SharonBurton.com. I'm lazy, so my first name @SharonBurton.com. Don't forget you'll get a link to the recording tomorrow, tomorrow-ish. You know, it could be tomorrow, it could be Friday, don't panic. It could be as late as Monday, don't panic, with Easter, things like that, you know, all of that. But you will get it shortly. Feel free to share that with people, etc., as they need to have that shared. Not a problem in the slightest. So, any questions, thoughts, concerns, comments, worries, anything like that? Go ahead, ask me what the best tool is. I did this webinar. The first or second time I did this webinar, I got to this slide, and somebody actually quite seriously said, okay, but what's the best tool for me? I wanted to put my head on the desk and go, I don't know. Bob, I don't know. Why are people obsessed with feature sets is a question up there. That is because they're concrete things and it's easy. And the vendors support this by including big tables with X's and happy faces and things like that. So, you know, the vendors support that, and it's silly. I mean, everybody's got a feature set. I mean, everybody. It's silly. All right, do I have experience with a workflow that includes drafted input from non-writer SMEs? Absolutely, and that's part of where I said look at what you're doing with other groups. Because if, for example, you move everybody to FrameMaker, teaching your subject matter experts what they need to know to work in FrameMaker, you could encounter gigantic resistance. Because they'll look at you and go, but I'm writing in Word. That's what I'm writing in. I'm writing in Word. I hear you that you're going to do something else, but I need you to hear me when I tell you I'm writing in Word. There are workflows that will, in fact, let you manage that. And by workflows, I mean with various products. There's a couple of products I'm thinking of right now where, yes, you can do that. And sometimes you can get the SMEs to move from Word into these other products that are designed to make it easier for them. So, excellent. Excellent. All right, so I've got another question up. It says, how would you deal with evaluating a tool across many teams and functionalities, weighing responses of, I love it, and F from another? To a certain extent, let me preface this with, I am a very good team player. I really am. I am a very good team player. I also like helping clients get what they need. And all of that being true, I am also, to a certain extent, almost a fascist government. because to a certain extent, once everybody has weighed in, and I want to hear everybody's voice because I think everybody's voice deserves to be heard. I think it is not nice to not let people's voice be heard. But once the voice has been heard and people who need to be making those decisions have decided kind of where they want to go, I'm kind of a shut up and we're just going to do this for these reasons. So definitely you want to hear everybody's voice because people have good ideas and you want to hear everybody's voice. Everybody has the right to weigh in. But at some point you're going to have to settle on a tool, and that tool or group of tools may not make everybody want to sing and dance. Oh well, these are the tools we're using. And there it is. And I know that probably didn't help that much, Joanna, but you know, my theory of parenting is benevolent dictatorship. You know, mostly I'll leave you alone, but don't think I won't come burn your village down without any notice. It pays to keep the dictator happy. So how would you differentiate between FrameMaker and NASDAQ Flare for organizational use? Oh, gosh. They have different tools for different solutions. FrameMaker is more for chapter-based outputs, chapter-based deliverables, so PDFs of manuals. Flare is more for topic-based offering. So you've got those two differences right there. Flare lends itself much more easily to content reuse than FrameMaker does. So there's big differences in the philosophy behind what each product is built on. And if you're over 40 and have to wear reading glasses, it's not so much fun to look at FrameMaker's UI, which is not telling tales out of school. I have told everybody I can get my hands on the FrameMaker development team that UI for over 40-year-old eyes is not the best. Okay, I'm interested in InDesign, XML, Word round tripping. Any suggestions for resources? Yes, don't do it. Nothing good is going to come out of that. Really nothing. And I would be interested in why that would be where you're hoping to go, because you're going to lose things at every step of that way. And then, you know, if you go from, say you go from Word into InDesign, you're going to lose some things from Word but gain some things from InDesign. And then if you go from InDesign into XML, you're going to lose some things but gain some things, and then that's not going to be pretty. And I would want to know the business case for doing that. There may in fact be one. There may in fact be one, but I would want to know more about that. I don't think that would be a workflow I would like very much. Having said that, that would not be my happy place. Yeah, not a good one. All right, so we are at the top of the hour. So let's go ahead and let you guys get loose. You've got my contact info. You know you'll be getting a follow-up tomorrow. Just all good stuff. So that's super exciting. Again, let's thank DCL for hosting this because they rock. Little virtual, you know, everybody virtually applaud. Yay, yay. Because it's not trivial hosting this. They have to give us somebody, you know, part-time to attend to this and they pay for all of this. So it's just, they rock. They just rock, man. So I want to also thank you guys for coming. I hope you got something of value out of this. And I want you to go off and have a great day. Go do something amazing. Today is always a good day to do something amazing and make a difference. Off you go. Go. Be amazing. Make a difference. Go. Every one of you. Thank you guys so much.